I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. A Pakistani community has a new place to call home at a Brooklyn parish.
This is an opportunity to be with the people who feel for their homeland at a time of crisis.
Plus, Italian heritage is on display. It's a celebration of Columbus Day.
So this is our day to be proud to be Italian, to wave that flag, and to go out and talk to people about being an Italian American.
And we'll go into the deep to discuss it.
There's a certain pride in saying, somebody of our background discovered America.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. The worst flooding in Pakistan's history, well, it continues to take a toll. Nearly 3 months after the waters began to rise, claiming 1,500 lives, as many as 20 million people remain homeless or displaced.
The flooding covered an area roughly the size of England. And now many of those affected are still threatened by the spread of disease and the lack of food and fresh water. It's very much on the minds of Brooklyn's Pakistani Catholic community.
This weekend at their weekly Mass at St. Rose of Lima Parish in Parkville, they were joined by Bishop DiMarzio, who prayed for the people of their devastated homeland.
We come today in a spirit of prayer and solidarity with those affected by the great flood in Pakistan. We pray to our God that He will give the aid to the suffering, and that we, who are God's instruments, will be able to help those who are in need. We wanted to be able to be with the Pakistani community. As you know, there was a great tragedy in Pakistan, a terrible flood, historical proportions, and we wanted to pray with the Pakistani community. This is the Pakistani Catholic community. There's a very minority in Pakistan, but most of the country is Muslim or Hindu. But certainly the Christians are affected too. So this is an opportunity to be with the people who feel for their homeland at a time of crisis.
As Christians, we have to be very embracing and welcoming, whatever people are in the neighborhood. And for the past 20 years or so, this neighborhood has been called a little Pakistan. You have a great number of members from the Pakistani diaspora living in this neighborhood. So I thought that would be a wonderful idea to open the doors of this church to service them as well.
As religious people, in the face of natural tragedy, we wonder and we question, is God good? How can God let things like this happen? People do question at times like this, and we need to emphasize our faith, what we understand about God. This has been a problem that the ancient philosophers faced. Today I will talk about the riddle of Epicurus, 300 BC, where he tried to figure out how could God be good if he allows things like this to happen. So it is something that people have struggled with, and I think at times of these kinds of crises, people do fall back on their faith, and they question with their faith God's place in the world and how God can help them in the face of these tragedies.
And my family is in Pakistan. My brother and sister is in Pakistan. So thank God I'm here.
I came to give my support to the new parishioners of Pakistan.
I'm very happy to Bishop coming and pray for Pakistani people.
I'm really thankful for that he came and he took out a special time for us.
Our prayer today is for the people who suffer today. And our prayer is also for us, that we may understand this evil that has happened and make it turn for the good. Give us an opportunity to show our concern and care, so that we, in our prayer and in our almsgiving, will indeed alleviate the suffering that has occurred.
American government has given a lot of help to the Pakistani government and European countries as well. My hope is that this money will be used for this particular cause so that people can live a decent life.
Well, at that Mass, Bishop DiMarzio was presented with 2 checks totaling $4,500. That money will go to Catholic relief services to assist flood victims in Pakistan.
Stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. When we return, we'll have the day's headlines, including a cardinal survives an attempt on his life.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up a bit later, a celebration of Columbus Day, Brooklyn style.
All right, but first, let's turn to the day's headlines. Well, the Vatican today announced the creation of a new council leaders hope will revive Christianity around the world. It's the Pontifical Council for Promoting New Evangelization, and Pope Benedict says it will encourage a clearer understanding of the faith and combat the decline of Christianity in countries where the faith once thrived. In a pastoral letter, the pontiff said advances in science and technology, the widening of individual freedom, economic changes and migration have brought positive changes to many people. But he said they've also led to a weakening of religious practice in the Western world. Well, the leader of the new council says his office will work closely with the media to combat that trend. He says they'll also operate in several languages. Well, meantime, the Synod for Middle Eastern Bishops is underway at the Vatican. As we hear from Rome Reports now, priorities for the gathering include religious freedom and the prospect for peace.
The Pope celebrated the opening Mass of the Synod of the Middle East in St. Peter's Basilica, along with 177 of the meeting's participants. Prayers were in Turkish, Persian and Hebrew, as well as Italian, Latin and Arabic. During his homily, Benedict XVI urged the international community to support reliable ways to build peace. At the same time, he asked the representatives of major religions in the region, especially Muslims, to promote spiritual and cultural values that unite people and exclude violence. He also called on Christians to be an example of forgiveness and reconciliation.
I cristiani continueranno a dare il loro contributo non soltanto con le opere di promozione sociale, quali gli istituti di educazione e di sanità, ma soprattutto con lo spirito delle beatitudini evangeliche che anima la pratica del perdono e della riconciliazione.
The Pope said that the Synod is primarily a pastoral meeting. That is, the important thing is to analyse the mission of the different churches in the Middle East, but not to ignore the dramatic political and social situation experienced in certain countries. He therefore said this meeting should improve the internal union of different churches and strengthen the relationship between all the churches present in the Middle East.
Questa occasione è poi propizia per proseguire costruttivamente il dialogo con gli ebrei, ai quali ci lega in modo indissolubile la lunga storia dell'alleanza, come pure con I musulmani.
The Pope stressed that without unity among the churches, it's not possible to speak of God's salvation. And this unity, he said, is a gift and not something dependent on man.
Well, meanwhile, the Catholic cardinal for the Sudan is okay after a man rushed toward him with a dagger during Mass. Cardinal Gabriel Zubair Waco was celebrating Mass at an outdoor playground when reports say Hamdan Mohammed Abdurrahman rushed the altar and tried to stab the cardinal. One of the prelate's aides stopped the suspect and took the weapon before turning him over to police.
Researchers began the first ever clinical trial of embryonic stem cell therapy this week in Atlanta. Geron Corporation is the first and only company in the U.S. with permission from the federal government to use the treatment on humans. The company's CEO called the trial a milestone and said it could lead to effective treatment for people with spinal cord injuries. Pro-life groups in the Catholic Church object to embryonic stem cell research because they say it destroys human life. Back here in New York, 4 Staten Island teenagers face hate crime charges after police say they bullied a classmate because he is Muslim. Police say the teens called the classmate a terrorist, spit in his face, and punched him. The alleged bullies face charges of assault and aggravated harassment as a hate crime. The Muslim family came to the U.S. from Trinidad more than 20 years ago. Meantime, if you pay close attention when Pope Benedict makes a public appearance, you may notice the papal coat of arms. Well, it looks like the symbol has undergone a bit of a makeover. Rome Reports gives us a peek.
Papal crest that hangs from Benedict XVI's window is sporting a new design this week. That was before, and this is now. We still don't know if the changes are definitive or if it's just one version of the papal coat of arms. The exterior is inspired by Pope Barberini's crest, which is found on the canopy or a baldacchino of St. Peter's main altar. The main difference compared to the prior is the comeback of the papal triple crown, which highlights the governmental function of the Pope, a symbol present in all the papal crests of the last century, including that of Pope John Paul II. No longer visible in this version is a bishop's mitre that represents the brotherhood between all bishops and the mission to teach Christians. Since they're compatible, which one he decides to use will probably depend on the type of ceremony.
And finally, an unlikely married couple will address the annual Alfred E. Smith Foundation dinner in Manhattan this week. Mary Madeline and James Cornville will be the guest speakers at the 65th annual event. Proceeds will go to the foundation named for the former New York governor and the first ever Catholic to run on a major party ticket for president. Alfred E. Smith Cardinal Francis Spellman started the foundation in 1946, and Archbishop Timothy Dolan will preside at this year's dinner. Past speakers include actor Bob Newhart, journalist Brian Williamson, Tom Brokaw, and every president since Eisenhower.
And now, James Carville and Mary Madeline. I've often wondered how they stay married.
I don't know. They must just agree to disagree.
I know, yeah. They don't agree on much politically anyhow. Stay tuned, there's much more currents coming up. Just ahead, we'll hear Bishop DiMarzio's thoughts on Columbus Day as we go into the deep.
Role he had in the evangelization of the New World, because he did bring with him priests, monks.
Welcome back. Well, here in New York, yesterday was a day for pasta and parades.
Sounds good to me.
Oh yeah, it was Columbus Day. It's a big day here in the city, you know, and it seems everybody here is suddenly Italian on Columbus Day.
Well, one of those who is definitely Italian is Bishop DiMarzio. Not long ago, we went into the deep to talk with him about the holiday and his or our heritage.
Bishop DiMarzio, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Good to be here again.
Well, as we celebrate Columbus Day, talk to us for just a minute about your feelings on the importance of Columbus Day, not just for Italian Americans, but for all Americans and Catholics as well.
Well, Columbus Day is the day we remember that Columbus discovered America. And on that day in 1492, which we all learned in our grammar school, that was the day that he came to one of the Caribbean islands.
Sailed the ocean blue. Yeah, there you go.
That's it. So, again, it's the New World that has been discovered. There was debates if he was the first one here or what, but he gets the credit. I think, again, for Italian Americans, he was Italian. He was born in Genoa. He sailed under the Spanish flag. But there's a certain pride in saying, you know, somebody of our background discovered America. And every other ethnic group takes pride in various things. You have the St. Patrick's Day Parade in March here, which is a major event in the city. The Steuben Day Parade, Hispanic Heritage Month. We go down the list, there's a lot of parades. The Brazilians had a parade not too long ago. In New York, everybody's here, and everybody takes pride in their roots, and I think that's great.
Yeah. And at one point, there was actually an effort to make Christopher Columbus a saint. What do we know of his faith? I mean, what do we know?
Well, clearly, at the 500th anniversary, a few years back now, they were looking at the role he had in the evangelization of the New World, because he did bring with him priests, monks, that were for the crew, but also to bring this Catholic faith to the New World. Now, there are others who wanted to make him a devil, never mind a saint, that somehow he brought colonialism and all the bad things that happened as part of that were his doing. Careful historical review, I think, has shown him to be a man of deep faith. Clearly, he did have that understanding. And the things that were attributed to him, they're difficult to prove that, you know, somehow he had evil intent or that he facilitated the worst parts of colonialism. His was the very beginning. In fact, he ran into some tough times himself. He went back in chains at one point because he kind of went afoul of what wanted to be happen. So I don't know if they'll ever make him a saint. That it's very difficult after 500 years to go back and get any records. And I don't know if anybody's praying to him today for miracles, which we need to make a saint. But I think the historical record is being clarified. Amazing how these records have survived 500 years or more. But there is evidence of what kind of a person he was, the writings he one of his own hand, etc. So I guess the jury's out.
Right.
But someday we'll see.
There you go. Someday the ruling will come down. But Bishop, of course, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, as you alluded to, are of Italian heritage. Tell the folks at home a little bit about your heritage and your background.
Well, I was always conscious I was Italian. All my grandparents were Italian. My mother and father were Italian. So we were Italian, and that was clear.
No question about it.
No question about it. And everybody else was American. We were Italian. So how you grew up in the 50s, anyhow.
Right.
But one of the things I always like to tell is how I learned to speak Italian. I learned at my grandfather's knee. He'd come home from work. He was a barber, and he would try to teach me Italian, one word at a time. But his inducement was that I got 1 penny for every word I said correctly.
Nice incentives.
And I had a little jar he would keep the pennies in. And then the next night he'd come and I have a test. If I didn't say the word properly, he took the penny back.
Oh.
So I was really motivated to learn, because a penny in those days, you could buy candy.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
in 1950. So it was an interesting way to learn your heritage, word at a time. Be proud of your heritage, like everybody should be proud of who they are. Because if we're not proud of who we are, we won't respect anybody else. So it starts again with the respect for self.
There you go.
And what do you think the contributions of Italian Americans are in general to the Diocese of Brooklyn, to, right here?
Well, clearly we have one of the largest proportions of Italian Americans in the diocese. It was even larger at one time in the past. But I think there has been a tremendous contribution on the part of Italian Americans to the life of the church. One of our former bishops was Italian American, Bishop Agavero. And we see today in all the parishes, they've spread out. There isn't, as there used to be, maybe just Italian parishes, ethnic parishes. Italians are found in every part of the diocese and are a really integral part of the life of each parish.
All right, Bishop DiMarzio, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Well, but he's Italian, no question about it.
Right.
All right, Bishop DiMarzio there. Well, in just a moment, we'll actually have more on how Brooklyn celebrated Columbus and Italian culture.
All right, but stay with us. We'll be right back.
When we return, it's an annual tradition, Brooklyn's Columbus Day Parade. We'll take you there.
What it is to be cultural, what it is to be proud. And I think that's the key of all of this, to be proud of who you are as Italian Americans in this country today.
Well, as we just heard from Bishop DiMarzio, Columbus Day is a time for Italians to celebrate their history, our history and heritage, and a lot of people did that this past Saturday with the annual Columbus Day Parade in Bensonhurst.
It began with a mass at St. Athanasius, and our cameras were there.
We celebrate what it is to be Italian, what it is to be cultural, what it is to be proud. And I think that's the key of all of this, to be proud of who you are as Italian Americans in this country today.
Christopher Columbus was Italian. It's interesting, we discovered America, an Italian discovered America. America has an Italian name, and who built America really were the Italian immigrants here that came and really did the building of America. It's just a great celebration of what it is to be Italian. And wait till you see the parade. The parade is beautiful. It's a beautiful local celebration. I don't know if this is true, but I believe it's the largest Columbus Day parade here in Bensonhurst, outside of the one in the city, in the whole country.
We have a lot of schools participating, a lot of bands, a lot of community organizations, and there's a lot of people on the sideline that are going to watch us walk by.
as an Italian American, I'm very proud of my heritage. And I think it's important to support our community because that's what America's all about. We're a melting pot. Everybody's proud of where they come from, but we're proud to be Americans. So this is our day to be proud to be Italian, to wave that flag, and to go out and talk to people about being an Italian American.
These celebrations are just another form of sharing with the entire community, with the entire society. The rich culture that altogether make what we call our city, our country, our world in reality.
I'm not Italian, you can see, but it's no difference. We all live in the same world. There's no boundary between Italian or Chinese or African American or Russian American. Because we all are Americans here.
I'm sailing to America.
What are you planning to discover there?
Hopefully the Indians.
Are you gonna treat them well?
We're gonna try to do a little better this time.
My brothers and sisters, today is our day, and may we remember that we as Italian Americans are called to reach out to all God's people and to bring about a kingdom of light, joy, and peace. Let us work to be the first people in this community to bring about peace. Pace e bene.
Molto bene.
It's so much fun, and it's so multicultural too. I mean, you saw, of course, a lot of Italian flags out there, but as you saw the man who was like, "I'm not Italian," you know, look at me. But you know, you saw that. You saw the bagpipe band as well. I think just about every parade, the bagpipe band show up in New York. It was really, really cool. I could watch that again about 4 or 5 times in a row. That was a cool piece.
So much fun, and really a celebration of Italian heritage. And like he was saying, you know, to be proud of your heritage. We're all the same, really, like he said. If you're African American, you're Chinese, you're Italian. But I have to say, I just came back from Boston. I was there for the weekend, and my mom was celebrating her 70th birthday.
Yeah.
And she got as one of her presents one of those certificates from Ellis Island that showed my great-grandparents that came in from Italy, from Castello Quattro, which is some, you know, northeastern part of Italy, and just remembering that there were so many people, as they said in that piece, that were Italian that really helped build this country. And you know, hopefully Christopher Columbus, like you said, we're going to do it better this time.
Right, there you go. A celebration of heritage, a celebration of a lot of people's heritages, I don't know. It's whatever the plural of heritage
Their
is.
background.
Yes, backgrounds.
Their history.
That one's easier to pluralize.
All right, well, that is it for tonight. Remember, we are always online at currentsny.net, and you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, I am Francesca Maxime.
Heritage I don't know where in the world that came from. I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.
Go back to grammar school.
Yeah. Seriously.